The seasons of podcasting, because podcasting is not a straight line. Welcome back to the Podcast Why. I'm Brett Johnson, my podcast guy, your trusted friend in podcasting. This show is here to help you reconnect with the real why behind your podcast so you can keep showing up with clarity and confidence. This is Season 5, Episode 3. Season 5 is entitled Sustaining Your Why Over the Long Game. It's built for the podcaster who's been at it for a while and needs to stay in it. It covers the evolution of the why, the comparison trap, natural podcasting seasons, guest strategy, using listener feedback as a strategic mirror, navigating life interruptions, and closing with the recommitment review framework. This is Episode 3, as I mentioned, and we're going to be talking about natural podcasting seasons. If you've been podcasting for a while, even just a year or two, you already know that it doesn't feel the same every month. There are stretches where ideas come easily, recording feels natural, and the show has a momentum you can almost feel. And then there are other stretches where everything takes more effort. The inspiration's harder to find, and you're publishing out of commitment rather than enthusiasm. Most podcasters interpret this unevenness as a problem. They assume the low energy stretches means something is wrong with the show, with their content, with them. So they either push through and white-knuckle their way to consistency, or they stop and feel guilty about stopping. What 10 years of working along podcasters has taught me is that neither response is necessary, because what most podcasters are experiencing isn't failure. It's seasons. Podcasting has natural rhythms, just like any sustained creative and business practice. And the sooner you recognize those rhythms for what they are, predictable, manageable, and even useful, the better equipped you are to stay in the game for years instead of burning out in months. Let me describe the 4 seasons I've observed most consistently in long-term podcasters. The first is what I call the planting season, the early phase of a show or a new direction within an existing show. Energy's high, everything feels new, and the work has a natural momentum driven by novelty and excitement. This is when your podcast why feels most obvious and most motivating. Enjoy it, but don't mistake it for your permanent baseline. The second is the growing season, the long middle stretch where the work becomes more routine. The show is established. The process is familiar. The energy is steadier but quieter. This is where many podcasters start to question themselves because the excitement has faded and the results are growing slowly. This is actually where the real work happens and where a clear why does its most important job, keeping you moving when the novelty is gone. The third is harvest, those periods when the accumulated work pays off in visible ways. A spike in metrics, a new client who found you through an old episode, a speaking invitation, a viral moment. This season reminds you why the growing season was worth it. And the fourth is rest, intentional pauses, reduced output, or quieter periods of reflection. These aren't failures. They're part of the cycle. The podcasters I've worked with who build the longest running shows are the ones who learn to rest with intention rather than collapse from exhaustion. Here's how to use this framework practically. Take a look at your podcasting history, even just the last 12 months. Can you identify which season you were in at different points? Were there harvest moments you didn't fully recognize as such? Were there growing season stretches you mistook for stagnation? Now look ahead. What season are you in right now? And what does this season call for? If you're in a growing season, it calls for consistency and patience. If you're moving toward rest, plan it. Don't wait for burnout to force it. If you're entering a new planting season, give yourself permission to let some energy and excitement back in. Your podcast why is what carries you through every season. But understanding which season you're in helps you show up the right way for each one. That's how you build a podcast that lasts, not by pretending the seasons don't exist, but by working with them instead of against them. You can book a clarity call with me. Just head over to my podcast guy online and look for the Book a Clarity Call link. It will map your podcast why to your business and your business to your podcast so it all feels coherent. Thanks for listening to the Podcast Why. I'm Brett Johnson, my podcast guy, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.